Okay, I got it.
All right, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com, where you find the latest and greatest there. We are doing another session with my boy True Armor. True, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
As always, best ways to find your work, True?
Catch me on YouTube at Truest Armor, and catch me on Twitter at True Armor, and generally all other media as True Armor. That's me.
Well, it's good. So tonight's episode got about 4 or 5 topics to talk about. But I will start off with something good.
Good.
Walmart
is always welcome. Let's get it.
Walmart shutting down their stores, their 10,000 stores across America for Thanksgiving. Remember at one point it was like an assault on the holiday where Black Friday bled into Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You know, then the whole week became Black Friday, and then
it was purge season. Yeah.
But it was kind of sad. It was sad. It was really sad because you would sit there as a family to have Thanksgiving, and half your family, if they were working at at the local mall or something like that, your niece or your nephew, they're working at the mall, boom, they whisked right out the door.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times did we see videos where people were being trampled for the big screen.
Yeah. You know what it is? It's the very same thing of me being a wealthy guy and walking into your poverty-stricken district or church, right? A sacred place like a church, and knowing that everybody is barely making it and trying to keep the lights on and having faith, and me just walking in and like going, just doing some flippantly arrogant thing like throwing money on the ground, like enough money where people scramble, not like $200. Nobody's gonna lose their church in that, but if I would like, drop $50,000, $75,000 in like $50 bills, $100 bills on a church floor, you would get the same kind of. You ever watch the like? I don't want to call them modern because they've been around for 50 years, but like The Price is Right in the 50s, in like the 60s. Sorry, The Price is Right in the 70s when it was like new and hitting its stride, where people won stuff, seemed very different from people now who get super psyched about money they haven't won yet, right? Like Ellen DeGeneres has people jumping through hoops for money, right? And it just, to me, tells you, money is always appreciated, don't get me wrong. But you get to a place where it's like dance a jig for me for this nickel, and that's what it seems to be. And it's not a nickel anymore. It's like 10 grand. And to your listeners, 10 grand is not a lot of money. It is not going to. I mean, it's nice to have in your pocket. Don't get me wrong.
Especially after taxes, it's not a lot of money.
Don't get me wrong. It's nice to have 10 grand on you, but it's not going to help you buy a house. It's not going to help you pay off college debt or get your kids into college. It's not going to shift your life in any real way at all. And it's people who are worth a god ton of money, sort of like playing this game of one day I wish everybody would just stop doing it, and then the people in charge who control you wouldn't know what to do with you because they control us through money and fear, right? It's one of the two. So I think it's a good thing, going back to the original topic here, I think it's a good thing that they stopped Black Friday, because the idea next to Thanksgiving and Christmas, where you're supposed to be thankful for things that aren't money based, but then.
But I want to say Black Friday's not being stopped. It's just opening on Thanksgiving.
No, it's going online, and that's good because you've seen people rip down those metal gates and like pull them up.
Yeah, come on.
Other people get trampled because once you hit the floor, you have all these people who don't see you down there and then trip over you, and the other people trip over them. I mean, a stampede is a ridiculous thing. Do you remember the stampede at City College that made Puffy and
Yes.
Heavy D famous. Remember that?
Yes.
Where people
Yes, I do.
This picture of people jammed indoors because everybody tried to get out this 20-foot wide entrance at the same time, and there was 1,000 of them, and managed to get stuck. I could not believe people could actually get stuck in a doorway. And there's pictures of them stuck in a doorway at this overcrowded party at City College. And, you know, it did make them rich and famous. So I don't know what to say about it. But it was a disaster. And it was all about, you know, getting people hyped and agitated over something that wasn't really that important. That was not worth losing your life over. And I think this is what Black Friday had become. You sweat for like the whole year for pennies, and maybe this one day a year you can get a little more for your money, you know, and then you're up against it with other people who are in the same boat trying to get a little more for their money. 3 o'clock in the morning after on Thanksgiving, not 3 o'clock, it's like midnight or 1 night on Thanksgiving after you've had dinner. Why are you leaving I don't know. Yeah, so I think it's a good thing. Just buy it online and
I think with the advent of e-commerce and the fact
here's
that
the thing, let me wrap this up.
Okay.
They didn't stop it because they appreciate the American family and thought this was bad. They likely stopped it because of coronavirus. You know, they wanted to, you know, they didn't want to say in November, we're not going to be doing XYZ. They were like, you know what, it's been getting us drama anyway. Maybe if we just slipped out now, you know, like how they like to drop stories on Friday night, political stories. Yeah. So I think it was more of that. I don't think it was so much that those
maybe coronavirus, but I think the e-commerce sales are through the roof.
Yeah.
No one's going to these places anymore. I mean, the one thing we've learned with coronavirus was you don't need that brick and mortar mall anymore. I mean, unfortunately, because that means a lot of jobs are going out the door. But hey, you know what? You can get that item purchased online, curbside pickup, or delivered to your house as quick as can be.
Yeah. So yeah, you can do all your shopping in your, you know, favorite jammies and your fuzzy slippers and not sweat it. You know, and why not? Versus, you know, in this environment, people show up without a mask. And do you want to be at Black Friday? Half the people have masks, the other half don't. And there's a good person fighting over the last big screen TV over nonsense, yelling. Now, if you're yelling, your 6 feet has to be 12 feet. You know what I mean?
But so, you know, the funny thing about it is, with all those Black Friday events, regardless, we're not just beating up on Walmart, but insert your favorite store. Insert your favorite store. They only have 6 TVs. They only have 5 air fryers going for $29.99. You know, there's limited portions. I mean, limited quantities.
Into the scrum with everybody to get that last air fryer. You're gonna show up there after Thanksgiving dinner with your family, and nobody's gonna, you know, I mean, everything you're looking for will be gone because other people got it already. Because, like you said, there's only 8 to 10 or 12 of them, 6 of them, if you know. So why go out? You just wander around shopping.
So, question for you: have you ever attended a Black Friday event? Have you ever stand out online? I have never stood out online.
Oh yeah, I did once. You know my sister Verl. So I came down. This is before I lived here in VA. And was it here? You know what? It might have been at my mom's house in Delaware. So we all gathered for the grand family gathering, and there was I think it was Prince. I forget the name. They have a Prince Anne's or Prince George's or something. There's a giant mall, Queen of Prussia Mall. Exactly. So we all go to Queen of Prussia Mall. It's like 1 a.m, and I'm like, why? You know me. I'm like, why am I even? And I'm just already kind of like a 3-year-old toddler in this environment. And we all stood online, and but it wasn't as crazy as you see on TV, but there was a ton of people. It was like 1 a.m. I was like, why are we doing this? And then I was out with my sister and my nieces, just trying to be part of a family thing to do something because I was stir crazy. And then I tortured myself because, they're not going to go and get what they want and leave. We were there for like an hour and a half.
But what was the item that you picked up? What was that item that you
could? I just went with my sisters. They got all sorts of Christmas stuff and stuff for the kids. They got husbands and da 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 da. Some of the guys went, so I went because some of the guys went. If it was all women, I wouldn't have gone. But it was what it was. It was just people shopped. I didn't get anything, but like I said, I think my sister got stuff for her husband and the kids and her grandbabies who were about to go back to school. I had 20-year-old nieces who got cool stuff for themselves, AirPod, earphones. I think, I don't want to be sexist, but I think women like to sift, right? They like to, oh, look at this. Oh, maybe I want, oh, look at this. But men don't like to sift. Men just kind of like to go, that's what I want, and I'm out. And that's it, right? So, but it was 1 a.m, and after, I was like, oh, we'll probably be out for 20 minutes, an hour. I'm good with that. It was way longer than I thought. But it wasn't, my whole thing was, it wasn't a zoo. My whole thing was, I can't believe all these people are out here standing online waiting for to shop. I mean, consumerism, greed, stay home with your family, you know what I mean, yada, yada, yada. But then you watch it and it's like, ugh. And by the time it got really bad, like my family had opted out. They were online and we'd watch it on TV and go, what is wrong with those people? And then I'd be like, you went to those things last year. And then it would become that kind of, family kind of ha ha ha. But we were not there. We were not out in this place shooting people over TVs who don't wear masks and all this other kind of craziness. So yeah, I don't know. It's one of the things I think may very well die out in the American culture, and it should.
This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. We're talking with True Armor. Next question or comment I will state is, today we watched our president. Even though we might not want to claim
the right honorable Donald John Trump.
We watched our president have a change in tone, and we watched all the journalists and broadcasters fall in line to say, oh, he was so serious and it was only a 30-minute press conference and blah blah blah, and he talked about masks and everything else like that. Why are we giving him a high five for something he should have done months ago?
Work. Yeah
is the bar that low?
Yeah, I think it is. I think you answered your own question. I think the bar is that low. And, excuse me, on top of that, I think the American citizenry is really used to just kind of like wishy-washy, namby-pamby, flippy-floppy kind of American political posture, right? So it's like, let's not even talk about Trump because everybody hates Trump. Let's talk about Barack Obama. Barack Obama was like, gay marriage? Nope, that's wrong. Turned on a dime, right? Oh, I evolved. Really? That fast? You know what? I was talking to somebody. I'm essentially the same person I was since I've been about 8. I really am, right?
Okay.
I don't want you to treat people poorly. I don't want to treat people poorly. I've got all these things but for me to shift so dramatically from like I wouldn't know what gay marriage was at 8, but I was a fair-minded kid then. I might have thought it was weird and icky, but I was like, you shouldn't mess with those people, right? So it's the same thing. As you age up, him saying this to me was one of the more blatant political maneuvers, right? He should have been that enlightened before he had to be called on it. And I think this is the same thing with Trump, right? If he was open and really open, it wouldn't have taken him this disaster to get there. And the disaster by which I'm talking about is his poll numbers are a skydiver without a parachute. I mean, It's just a plummeting experience. You know what I'm saying? And the only thing that's going to stop his numbers from cratering is if he gets his parachute to work, which is his team to sell his message to the people so he can get another 4 years, or the ground, right? It's one of those two things. I mean, I don't know. It's the American politics is a royal bad show. Like, it's just not good. I mean, look at Portland. I mean, it's just all over the place. I mean, the police brutality, and then you protest against the police brutality, and then the cops are more brutal. You're like, what? And so yeah, I don't know. It's just the whole environment is a it has always been a pot on a stove, and I think the people in Congress, the Congress, the president, not Congress, but the Congress, the senators, and the congressmen, with the president and the Senate, and the Supreme Court has been able to sort of like keep the whole place from bubbling over. And every time when it did bubble over, they put it down with dark hostility. But now you're in the what I'm calling the modern age, because everybody's got a camera and it's truly modern. Everybody can see what you're doing. You can't really so much lie about what means what and who did what. Like George Floyd, I mean, you can't say that nobody saw what they saw because everybody's got a camera. And now I think you're going to really have to address some of this. You know,
I think with today, he started to address it, but he was addressing it because it was on it was on the script. It was a part of his script.
Right.
So unfortunately, that
so Barack Obama can come to gay marriage late and say I evolved. He's trying to come to, you know, he came to wear a mask late last week.
Yeah,
I think he only did the only two photos of him wearing a mask, right?
Right.
And he himself tweeted one. One was taken by the press, the AP, and one was he himself tweeted it for, I think, in my opinion, for good energy in the atmosphere, because the people who his base is like, we're not wearing masks, and all of a sudden they're like, maybe we should wear masks. I still
don't think it's sold. I
don't think so either.
I think it's kind of like late to the party.
That he can say, "Oh, we should wear masks." I think it's shifted enough.
Yeah, but he's late to the party. Where at the end of the day, it's 140,000 lives.
Republicans are always late to the party. Republicans, right?
I agree.
Late to the party.
I agree, but there's 140,000 lives out there. That number is just increasing, and we're at the point where now you're saying this. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, most people
they don't know what his team is. I don't know, man.
Most people should be able to see through this. And hopefully the voters.
Yeah, but his team aren't most people. His teams are rich, connected, excuse my language, but like idiot heads, right? They only talk to each other about whatever they think the issue is. So now they're trying to talk to me and you, and we're not them. And they're also trying to talk to the Latino family who are not them, and the Asian family who are not them, as well as the immigrant families who are not them. They're trying to run America through edict and, do I want to say aggression? However they're trying to run it, it had nothing to do with what the people want, which is in the core fabric of the place. So if the people want term limits and universal health care, then you should be working on trying to figure that problem out, versus telling the people, you don't get that, you're all lazy, or, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's always some kind of why, man. Yeah, they don't know what they're doing, and I think they've lost. I don't want to say the mandate to lead. That's a little, you know, but I will say that they are so disconnected from their leadership. Their stewardship of this place is tenuous. Their leadership is bad, and their connection to the common man and woman, everyday worker, whether you're a union guy or you're just, you know, is I don't even know. I'm looking for a word for it. I don't see how they represent. Them as a collective, rather, represent what the people as a collective want. It seems like they rule by division. So you have two giant groups, and in those two groups, you have all these small segments. And now both of those two giant groups are kind of bisected by racial animus that people seen, and some people want changed, and most people want change. But when you follow like the poll numbers, the Washington Post did this. I'm trying to remember the. It had so many stats in it. I was like, are these stats for real? Oh, I wish I had it for your listeners. But yeah, it was in like the last 36 hours. But man, people are just unhappy, and everybody seems to be unhappy, and not just
it's across the board. It's across the board.
Not just for one topic. Like, it's not just Black Lives Matter, which you're trying to blame to then gain more traction to stay in Congress, right? It's everybody's unhappy. Like, people need to feed their children, keep a roof over their heads, and people in Congress seem to make that really hard to do.
Well, they're just not doing their jobs.
Well, what is their jobs? I think they think their job is to stay in Congress, like Eliot Engel, who just lost his bid to not reclaim the seat, but to
run again.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Totally run again. His career is over.
And likely so, quite frankly.
10 or 12 terms. Nothing. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We spent some time on a previous podcast where we were talking about primarying these types of career politicians and getting them out because they're no longer effective.
Yeah.
We talked about this maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
And we
to give it not example, but a metaphor. Think of these politicians as your hunters and your protectors if we were like a small tribe of like 100 people, right? You don't need 80-year-old hunters out in the field chasing the bisons and the mammoths, right? You need sharp-minded young thinkers. And they have rigged this place so that they are the only hunters. So you have to think that your society is starving, because it is. And what in this metaphor, what we're starving for would be, the food there would be things like education reform and police reform and healthcare. They're not doing anything we want, but they remain, in charge, and people are just tired. And for all the boldness we as Americans talk, we're not ones to kind of like overthrow the system and like rage against the machine. We really aren't, unless you put us to it. So Black people are always the ones who will rage against it. But if you're comfortable, you kind of go, America's a good and comfortable place, right? I mean, I'm not, I'll talk to this lawyer about that, and I'll get redress and But, in these times when people are ripping down statues and kind of losing their minds, and you have to seriously tell people why they should hold their powder when you have not given them anything. And on top of that, you treat, the cops treat women badly. I've always said it's not just the Black people that they're killing. I've seen cops treat women badly, like they hate their mothers. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And like today, who's the representative from it was yesterday? Who's the representative from Florida? Yoho, who stepped to Representative Ocasio-Torres in this aggressive and hateful manner. I was like, this is where you look. Why should I trust this? I was a bar guy for a long time, and I've seen guys who get drunk, who nice guys, sober, but once they get drunk, all their animus comes out. And that girl that they talked to and worked all night and bought her dinner, she's like, I don't want to talk to you. All of a sudden, they hate her. Not only do they hate her, they hate all these other women in this bar. Not only do they hate those women in this bar, they hate the bartender, Kate. Because I'm like, you know what? Fix your head, man. It's every now and then it comes out, and that whole thing tells me more about him than about her. And if that dude is a big dude, she's not a big woman. That is always a bad look. And the fact that all these modern power broker women didn't lose their mind about it. That was one of the most aggressive things I've seen, and this is politics, in a long time, and no one, it's not on television. People acting like it didn't happen. I find that problematic for the country. I really do. I do.
Hey, we want to switch topics right here.
Yep.
We're going to get back to what happened to AOC, but I got to ask you.
Yeah.
What in the Blue Blazes is happening in Portland? There's some type of Minority Report, dystopia. They are about to commit a crime, so we're going to come in and stop it.
People for crime they think they're going to pull, which I was like, what?
Did you ever watch that show, Persons of Interest?
I know of it, but I've never seen an episode.
Well, they stopped crimes before they actually happened. So, yeah, that was the greatest thing about the show. Is 5 seasons long. The last season wasn't too great.
I was about to say Henry Cavill. It's got the who's the guy who's Jesus?
Jim Caviezel.
Right, Caviezel. So
Jim Caviezel. Right. Yes. And they stopped crimes before they were about to happen. So that's what I guess, the president has some type of AI working in the background, and he's sending these federal agents out. I mean, with their costume on.
Bad guys. Only the bad
guys. With their costumes on, fully covered, no identification outside of police, and they are. I mean,
man, I don't want to tell you. Look, listen.
So where do you? I will say this much: where is the media on stuff like this? Because the protest,
you can't trust the media.
The protest never actually stopped, but they stopped showing the protest.
Yeah, like I told you, like on the last podcast, like the forest fires, they didn't tell you that they stopped. They just stopped reporting on them. They just moved on. They don't actually tell you news. They hit you with as much sensational nonsense as they can until their masses go, oop, this is bad for us. Just change the topic or drop the topic. So fires are fine. A bigger story took over from fires, but you think that you'd have a big story and the fires become a B story. They can still tell you how it's going because people are still losing their livelihoods, and firemen are still risking their lives in these fires in our nation, in California, which is where they were raging, right? California, Oregon, versus what they were telling us all about Australia, who I have some family members who live in Australia. They were saying how, wow, like the Australian thing is ridiculous. And especially near New South Wales, which is, I would say New South Wales is there. Would it be there in New York or would it be there Los Angeles versus Perth? Anyway, New South Wales is one of their giant major cities. And, the fire was close, right? But they just stopped. Like you would think fires didn't matter anymore, right? And this is the game they're playing. They're not actually telling you the full disposition of a story that they've been telling you for however long that story's been running, unless it's a crime story. Crime stories are really easy. This is Sean. This is Sean's wife, Lulabelle, right? Lulabelle goes missing. This is orange spray. Ooh, Lulabelle goes missing. They will either put me in jail and look for her or find her and put me in jail. It has a nice rap. It's a beginning, it's a middle, and it's an end. All this other stuff takes long and they don't really want to mess with it. They didn't go anywhere near some of these other stories like Epstein and blah, blah, blah. But,
Portland is at day 54.
Yeah.
And just now with this latest in the last week where people were being...
Secret police, the border... First of all, why is the border patrol... Some of these guys have border patrol patches. Why is the border patrol in Oregon arresting people? This is... Remember what I said? Like, I think I should start writing down the days and the topics of the shows that we have together. But I was like, congratulations, America. You're all inwards now. This is it. Don't think that you won't be pulled into this pit. it's there's a racial animus to this nation, but it's mostly about oligarchs and elitism, right? The idea that you can attack a woman under a dumpster and not go to jail because you're connected to people, is part of that, right? The idea that, the Prince of England daughter got married and he's not pictured in any of the things because he's got baby issue allegations.
Yeah.
Is how these people are protected. You let somebody whisper something like that about you or me, there'd be 1,000 people outside my house. That, we would be in jail. They have all our computers, all on the aspersion of you did something. Not and you'll have 1,000 people go, what? Don't even know him or her, and he's always at church with us, and they don't care because the thing is to sell you the outrageous, if it bleeds, it leads kind of deal. So, here in Oregon, I'm about to say here in Oregon. I mean, there in Oregon, you've got unmarked cops, You've got unmarked cars. You have I'm sure for a word. Anyway, you have officers, federal agents with no markings of any kind of agency or unit on them, wearing the thickest of protective gear, guarded out, as if they're in the hills of Afghanistan. To me, you're asking for a war with the American people, and that is the wrong thing you should ask for, considering the place was founded on rebellion, right?
We're at the point. We're at the point. Oh, go ahead.
I think one of the greatest things I've ever seen was done by the Russians, right? So when they took over I forgot how old I was, but when they took over Russia, there was a coup and they ousted Gorbachev. The people who caught the coup had tanks and the military out in the street, and the military was like, "We're not doing this. We're not." And I was like, from that day I wondered, would the American military fire on the American citizenry? And then I was like, well, Kent State, they did that before, right? Yeah, and and since Kent State, I forgot the other place that they've done it. And I was like, if all these Black Lives Matter people and Trump had the National Guard and the military and all these border patrol and all these unmarked federal people in fatigues show up and start and put them on the street, would they stand with the people and be like, yeah, the people dictate what the country is and they've had it? Or would they go, we're just going to murder you all off and treat you all like we've always treated citizens, Black citizens in particular, but we've always treated the citizens of this country? I wonder about it. And this is why I think it's more likely to get worse before it gets better. And all, like, as an ex-cop, I used to tell all the cops that I work with, what are you, an idiot? You don't all live on military bases. You live out here in the public with the people. You can't get darker and darker and darker and expect no one to challenge you. You can't, right? And if you ratchet it up, then they will ratchet it up. And before you know it, you'll be in an armed race of, excuse my language, but F-you-ness. And that's not what you want. The people in charge, should solve it. But like I said, we talked about Engel earlier. He has no interest in solving anybody's problems, and I'm glad he's gone. He just wanted to stay a congressman. What about my pain? To heck with your pain. I'm trying to ball out of control here at 80. How old is he? Once you get all these old people out of Congress, what are they going to do? Start gardens? They don't want to do that. They want to lord over you. And nobody wants,
once again,
don't get me wrong. When I was 19, I wanted
after everyone.
7-year-olds telling me what I should do. And I'm sure when I'm 80, 70-year-olds will not want me telling them what to do. And they have to fix it. They should fix it before it gets any worse. And we'll see where it's going. I mean, what's the guy who just got who unseated Engel? And he's 2 years after Ocasio-Torres, so maybe the place is becoming a little more
Ocasio-Cortez.
But
yeah, no,
a guy just want Yeah.
I like the way this is going because, like I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to say all the old guard, but all the people that have stayed extremely too long.
Yeah.
If you're a
Yeah.
fifth and sixth or eighth and a 10th term,
Yeah.
it's time for the new blood. It's time. It's we're gonna get to the point where we're gonna be like,
Look,
when
my
are the
shorthand
young
is this.
folks?
If the
Young
president can't
folks,
stay for 2 terms, why can you stay for 10?
right? But
Right?
we're
The
gonna get to
first
the
thing they're
point
talking about now is, oh,
where the
Trump won't
young
leave. Trump won't
people
leave.
we're at the point where we're going to be starting to look for the young people to lead us.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to
And that's the
switch
problem
to.
too. Look, you just can't trust young people like you just can't trust old people. The problem is money is corrupting, right? So you don't want anybody like Joe Biden got there young. He was 29. He should have a young mindset, and he's still
Right.
there.
Hey, we got to flip. We got to flip to the next topic. If you look across most of these cities, we're seeing an enormous amount of gun violence every night, every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And you ask the president, he says democratic cities. But it seems like we became accustomed to Chicago and a lot of gun violence, but we're starting to see some of that violence in New York. And we're starting to see that violence in other places.
Okay, I would disagree with this. All right, because again, ex-cop here. I think the violence is always the violence, but I think when it look.
So in New York, shootings are up 200%
about this. But let's say yesterday someone killed their wife, right? The day before that, someone killed their husband, right? The day before that, someone killed their kid, and in all those days, someone killed, their wives, husband, the kids, and all those days. Then the media comes through and goes, "Oh, this murderer was a black husband who killed. Oh, there's racial energy there. Oh, or this woman who was killed was young and pretty, a beautiful white woman. She's missing. Oh, we love that. But this one was just this guy and this girl, and no one cares. So we're gonna just ignore that. The media picks and chooses and tries to get you to be outraged about stuff.
But if you look at statistics, the gun violence has gone up in some of these cities. In New York, for one,
statistics work like this. So is it an upward trend perpetually rising, or is it doing this kind of ebb and flow like sadly gun violence does? These are the questions
unfortunately, in New York, it seemed like it's skyrocketed.
I think there's been a couple of I still follow New York news. I think it's been a couple of fairly I don't want to say egregious, but the guy who got shot walking his 8-year-old daughter, sort of like arrogant, like criminal nonsense, dewage. I'm gonna coin that word, dewage. And they called
over the weekend. Over the weekend, there was 17 people that were shot.
Yeah, but in a city of how many million? You know what I'm saying? Well, I tell my nephew this all the time. Look, when they tell you X amount of people got shot, you should go out of how many. In your populace. If your populace is 1,000 people and 100 people got shot, you got 10%.
But if you're comparing that number to last year's number, and if it's at a 200% increase, you gonna tell me that's not a problem?
Yeah. No, well, I wouldn't say it's not a problem, but in this age, you also have to look at who's giving you these numbers, right? Look, if you're getting your numbers from Fox News, you got problems. Because we know Fox News skews the books, right? If you're getting your numbers from MSNBC, you got a problem. Because we know.
But let's say you're getting them from the NYPD. Let's say if you're getting them from NYPD.
NYPD skews the books too. That ComStat stuff, it always makes the cops look right. So we have to, mind you, they're talking about bringing back my own unit. I work street crime. They're talking about bringing back the street crime unit to get guns off the street. Look, the problem with guns on the street is guns in New York always come from where? The South. They drive them up I-95 into the city. So if you want to cure your gun problem, you got to cure your Southern inflow problem. Just like if you want to cure your drug problem, You got to cure your Mexican supply problem. No one really cares about fixing these problems. They care about writing stories and getting elected on them. Oh, I'm going to be tough on crime, but put me in Congress. Yeah, shut up. Because we know exactly what that means. That means you want to sit there for 30 years and do nothing. And when something goes bad, you want to blame Black people, brown people, immigrant people, the other. So, we've danced this dance enough at this party. We should either be sick of the dance, sick of the song, or sick of the party.
So with the excessive gun violence, does Trump
excessive gun violence?
Excessive.
Well, yeah, regular gun violence.
I mean, there's a difference in the level that I guess that's expected versus when you have
arrogant
30 people getting mowed over. That people were attending a funeral and 12 people were either shot or they were killed and I'm like, wait, what in the world's going on
here?
This
is the arrogance of morons, man. I remember 2 years ago there was a block party and someone showed up and shot up the block party. Random. I mean, you know what? At this point, I'm blaming the mothers of these people. I'm blaming the fathers of these people. You know what I'm saying? If I have an issue with you and I seek vengeance and I have a gun, I will I know full effing well that I'm not going to shoot up a park with kids in it. My connection to revenge is a directed investment like an arrow and it's pointed at someone. It's not this wild fog that lands on everyone, which is what this stupid craziness that I see is. And they catch him. Like I said, there's cameras every place. They caught that guy who killed that guy walking his 6-year-old, and they should spend the rest of their days in a box.
Yes, they should.
It don't make no sense.
Hey, this is Ted Hicks at Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. Final topic. It's going to be a little touchy one. I want to make sure that we can talk about it. And it's regards to Nick Cannon to be or not to be canceled. Now, when we're not going to talk about Nick Cannon's what happened with him, the video podcast with Professor Griff. There was certain things that were mentioned that were
do your listeners even know who
Professor Griff from
background
Public Enemy.
Professor Griff was, tell us, Biz.
Security of the First World for Public Enemy.
For Public Enemy, like 20 years ago.
Yes, right? And he was relieved of his duties.
Grew up together, so they still have connection. Because, like I said, they all grew up together. Like you and I grew up together. We have connection.
Right.
So
but he's no longer active. He's no longer active. But he's no longer active with Public Enemy.
Right. No, he's no longer in the group. But the idea that they're friends and they go back 20 years, so it makes sense that he would show up on his podcast and have this intimate relationship, like you and I have this intimate relationship of knowing each other 30 years. So versus if I was a CPA at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, and I showed up on you and we're talking about earbuds,
Dewey,
I'm not going to be as comfortable and I'm not going to be as comfortable.
I think saying, Nick Cannon got caught up in the moment because there's certain times when a conversation goes left. If a conversation goes left, you got to be able to pull the person back in to say, okay, but wait a minute, let me correct you on X, Y, or Z.
Exactly. He should have been challenged on a lot of the stuff he said.
Versus going with the flow.
Right. He should exactly. He should have been challenged on a lot of the stuff he said. And I think
he's, believe it or not, I didn't know that Nick Cannon was involved with as many properties as he currently deals with. You want to talk about residual income? You want to talk about someone who is grinding? Definitely, that's Nick Cannon. So he had Professor Griff. Professor Griff said a few things on there that, if you're of the Jewish faith,
I'm not feeling it.
Are not feeling him. But they already were not feeling him.
Well,
because he said certain things over the years. And like I said, here's a situation where Professor Griff doesn't deal with a multitude of sponsors.
Right.
He's not a household name.
Right.
Here's Nick Cannon doing,
you got to be in the culture to know who Professor Griff is.
Right.
And that was part of my point about like when we opened this segment on this. It's sort of like if I were, what is the equivalent of people that you know? If I were who's popular in everyone? If I were Will Smith, everybody loves Will Smith. If I were Will Smith, and I went on my old homie's podcast, who was who's the Fruits of Islam, Farrakhan, right? Minister Farrakhan's podcast, right? It's sort of that. So it's this guy, Professor Griff, who was sort of thrown out of the group for saying stuff like this 30 years ago, like when he was like 19. And this childhood friend of his who, quote unquote, made good in like the mainstream world and made really good. He made a lot of popular let's call them black-centric shows that cross the bounds for all people to like, right? He wasn't making shows.
Well, mainstream shows.
No, but they were black-centric, mate. They were like Chappelle.
Wild 'N Out
mainstream, but Chappelle was a black-centric show that people liked, right?
So Wild 'N Out
Chappelle,
is a black-centric show.
I think that Dave Chappelle show is very black-centric.
No. I'm talking about I'm talking about Wild 'N Out.
Yeah, the title tells you it's a slang black term.
Okay.
For just being crazy, right? You're wilding out,
Okay.
So he's not trying to make content. I don't want to disparage him, but let's say the guy who's got the Tyler Perry makes black-centric content too, but it's more for. No, that might be wrong. Tyler Perry's content is directed at a different black-centric audience, more women and gay men, I would say. Okay, so I don't know, man. Wow, you have stumped me. I don't really know who I would say his content is black-centric and popular with mainstream. Is that a category? So
I don't know.
And
I'm just saying.
Look, we don't own any of our content, but the stuff we come up with is worth trillions of dollars, right? So they can get rid of him, but then they have to find another black guy to do it, right? They're not going to be able to find. Look, rap music is taking over because rap music is essentially poetry. Anybody can write poetry, but these beats and these rhythms and these syncopations go to the soul of people, right? And this is why all these, knock on wood, try not to get canceled, all these white artists who rap, like all these white rappers use black artists, like rhythm makers and beat makers and producers, because they want their swag to sound a certain way as they play in this environment. And I think he was really good at going, hey, I'm good with the environment. I can make this thing that this group likes, my group, as well as not be so crazy and not alienating, but so crazy and alienate. Oh, this and not be so. Man, you can connect to it if you're a white person outside the culture. You can look at it and still find it funny and interesting and witty and clever, and not be so outside of the language and the structure of it that is foreign to you, right? So Wild 'N Out was essentially, am I thinking about the same road when they did Burns, right? It was the Dozens, right? Which is an old black thing that we used to do with the, like, right? It was when they did the Dozens, right? When people would rap against each other. Right.
Right.
So that energy is very nightclub. Very. I mean, it's he. I don't know. Maybe they could get somebody else to do it. I don't see how.
Well, it's a
And he's
brand
born of
that
Hollywood. I don't want to say he's born of Hollywood, but when he slipped into Hollywood, he slipped in kind of seamlessly because for one, I did not know he was in Public Enemy, like, and an original member, no less. It's not, just like Tupac was an original member of I'm about to say
Digital Underground.
Right. So, you're like, well, was he really? Wow. And he made good. He was not problematic. He wasn't always at the club getting into shootouts, like drunk and smoking weed. He was always sort of on his grind. So
Hey, I want to jump in.
I miss him.
I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad because he's made some strides to try to correct and, number one, see the error in his ways.
Right.
There was an apology made. Viacom and CBS decided to part ways with him.
Of course they did.
Fox decided to go the other route and said he can still he can still continue with The Masked Singer and his upcoming talk show. Right. And he still does his radio show. So the avenues are still there. He's trying to correct the errors in his ways, and if the apology is heartfelt, and if you're reaching out to someone of the of the Jewish culture to say, okay, let's sit down, let's talk.
But they don't want to
explain to me.
They want to sit down. I think we're in a culture.
No, they have
destroy you, right?
They have sat down with them.
Jewish people, whoever the Jewish people who managed to get,
but they have sat down with them.
Well, yeah, he did. He had a gentleman on his show. I forget the I think it was a rabbi. Was he a rabbi? I forget what he was. But the idea that it's not all the Jewish. I'm sure there's a ton of Jewish people who don't care, right? Other people who like him and like, and other people who would have.
Well, everyone makes mistakes.
Other people who would have happily taken the apology, right? So that's like 5 groups right there. But I always think what the American media wants is to find the guy who will give them the most media sensational outrage or long lastingness. So yeah, I think
well, I think the story is still being written.
They could have found people who would like, I wish he hadn't said it. I wish, maybe they should have had somebody come on and tell him where he was wrong. Let me tell you, that's ridiculous, first of all. And that's been a trope about us Jews for a while now. And let me tell you why and where it comes from. And then you can get it up. But first, it's always, nope, everybody's got to be instantly canceled. And we don't run the media.
Hey,
but you're
I want to ask you one last question. And then we're going to close out.
Yeah.
Steve Stoute. Name sound familiar? Steve Stoute, the commissioner. Steve Stoute from he does like brand management. He's been in music. He's produced like Mary J. Blige and Nas and a few other.
I probably know his work.
Hit makers. He has come out. Well, I think he was interviewed by Variety magazine and said, if Drake goes independent, it's going to destroy the music business.
Why? Why is Drake that important?
Drake is that important because Drake puts together a single or puts together a song. It plays the entire, what's the name? It plays the entire summer.
Yeah, in a rigged record environment that pushes some people over other people. Are these organic swings? Remember when music used to be organic? People would just have the best beats and rise through. Now people remember. Who's the guy? I'm about to say Fast by Freddy. No. I sound like every other part. What was his name? he almost got into to pay for play on the radio, which is illegal.
Funkmaster Flex.
Thank you, Funkmaster Flex.
Yeah.
And it's this whole thing of I won't play your spins if you don't play this game. And some people are like more than so. Yeah, you wonder why everybody's making music, but there's only essentially 50 musicians that anybody ever listens to.
Right.
That's it. It may be maybe 100 because there's about 20 or so rappers, 20 or so country people, 20 or so pop artists. You know, Katy Perry and what's the other girl who plays guitar? So there's always like these people, but you always still concentrate on like the top 5, like 5 women, 5 men, because it's all the same record company pushing it. All the music is always owned by the same guy, right? Whether you Jay-Z talking about yo, this is the streets, or you're what is her name? I know her song.
Alicia Keys.
No, the young white blonde girl who they said was an alt-right sensation. She plays the guitar, and she's got beef with the other young white lady singer. Who's pregnant now. Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Right. So Taylor Swift is like a huge superstar, but it's all in the same kind of box of like these 10 women and some guys, rappers, these 10 guys and maybe some women, but nobody cares about classical music, or there's maybe 8 people in country music, but country music is dying for a good reason. You guys in country music, you came to civil rights a little too late. The Dixie Chicks, get rid of Dixie. Now you're just a Chicks. Now you're just a sexist name.
You got Lady A. Listen, we gotta wrap this up. We gotta talk about Hamilton next time. We gotta talk about, is it time that Hamilton is canceled? Because I heard a few people.
They stole the music. Nobody's playing salsa. They also rap music written by a Spanish guy. I don't understand.
On the Disney Plus channel, it drove 85% of the traffic.
Crazy
type stuff,
which is good. I mean, it shows people have some interest in, I guess, music and theater as well as the history of the place. All 3 things good. So yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Talk about it.
Hey, best ways to get in contact with you.
Catch me on. I'm True Armor every place, and on the places that I'm not True Armor, I'm True S Armor. Like and subscribe and follow as I try to do this thing.
And I'm the real Ted Hickson. We're out.
Peace.